Welcome back to Visited by Voices Live in November of 2023. I'm joined today, of course, by Sam.
It's like almost 80 degrees here. It's the worst November ever.
Ever?
So far.
Okay. We're also joined by a very, very special guest today, Kailey Reid.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So the best introductions are ones people make for themselves. So briefly tell us who you are and why you're on the show, and that should be funny. And then I'll tell you the real reasons.
Yes, I am Kailey Reid. I am an illustrator and I'm actually also a graphic designer. I'm on the show because somehow you found me, my artwork at Adams Fest in Westfield, New Jersey, and you reached out to me that way. I never asked you about how all that transpired, but I'm pretty sure it's self-explanatory, but even so, I don't know if there's something there to reveal about that.
So yeah, I went up to see the art of Charles Adams at a
Ooh.
very small exhibit hall.
Mhm.
Half the room was Charles Adams, the other half was Edward Gorey.
Mhm.
But in the window and at a small table, as soon as you entered on your left, was your art.
Yep.
And it was a remarkably well paired group of artists from three very different backgrounds. True, too. Obviously, Adams and Gorey knew each other, and you didn't have that pleasure because you're young. You're like 7 years old or something. But we just found this out.
Oh my God.
But your work fit really well in with the exhibit, and I thought that was a remarkable thing for a modern artist, because if you think of Charles Adams and you think of Edward Gorey, their styles were very mid-century, even though their better work was known for the end of the century, perhaps. But that style, it's nice to see that it has survived in some form with some adherence. And I was just blown away that there was a modern artist. So literally, it was like I picked up your card, which I wait, is here. Wham.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I think I just doxed you without thinking about it. But
It's really small prints.
yeah, and the quality is not that great. Thanks.
Fine. Sure, it's fine.
So I picked up the card, and the first thing I did before reaching out to you was actually just Google, and because yes, there's a barcode I can scan on the back, but I I'm an old man, so I just Google everything.
He's 50.
I am 50, so I was really drawn to the fact that I saw most of the pieces that I saw online. I actually had seen reproduced there, but I've seen a lot of art, right? And it either looks like modern comic book art usually, or it looks like people trying to be ultra realistic, like photographs.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Your work was stylized enough, but also felt classic enough. We'll get to it because we have some of your work to show tonight, but it reflects all kinds of things that are really right in my wheelhouse. Wood cuttings are reflected in your work.
Interesting.
We'll get to the ones in particular. But I find that really interesting because growing up, I had this book about, the real life Dracula, so Vlad Tepes, and of course the famous wood carvings of him watching his opponents be put up on stakes.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the most compelling thing in the goddamn world to me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of your work reflects that. Also, a lot of dance macabre imagery is reflected too. And of course, Halloween is close to my heart. Hence, someone who goes to Westfield goes to an exhibit of Charles Adams in October. So that's how I came across you. And then you responded like quickly and enthusiastically, which is not always the case. Often I'm like, hey, I've run a YouTube channel. And people are like, yeah, 7 people are going to watch this, right? 7. By the way, we already have more than 7 people, but
don't point this out to me. Don't point this out to me.
I'll tell you when it reaches 30, so you feel great. And suddenly her screen goes dark, and we're like, we lost it. So that's where my story of discovering your art begins. But where does your art really begin? But let's not start there. Actually, we'll get there yet in a moment. The more important question is the one we always start with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get bit by the horror bug?
Oh, I don't even have a super clear answer for you because I feel like it's just been something that I've been interested in since I was itty bitty. I mean, obviously, as a kid, usually you're only so exposed to horror, and horror is a very broad genre. So when I say horror as a child, I think more like very early beginnings for me was like Tim Burton. Everything Tim Burton for me. It still is. I'm still a massive Tim Burton fan. But Nightmare Before Christmas and like those kind of Beetlejuice, like I grew up with those movies. But then I think like my first horror movie that stands out in my head that I watched when I wasn't supposed to was The Ring. And I was at a friend's house. Like that, I mean, it's just stuff like that that comes to mind when I think about early exposure to horror. And I was just always fascinated by it. And that fascination and love for it just grew and grew and grew. And I was always drawing macabre stuff and writing macabre poetry since I was really little.
I think I was a teenager and The Ring scared the ever-loving shit out of me when I saw it in the theater, and I had a hard time. It was like one of those movies I got home, like eventually when you get home, you kind of don't want to go to sleep, and that hasn't happened in a lot with a lot of movies for me, like The Ring and then Ju-on, the Japanese version of The Grudge.
I haven't seen that one. I've seen
see-
Grudge, but I haven't seen Ju-on. Okay.
Yeah, no. So seeing like The Ring young, oh my god.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I mean, I'm sure it scared me, but I don't. It didn't like. There's nothing I can think of where I thought, "Oh my god, that just absolutely scarred me," or I was a strange child. I was just very morbidly fascinated by this stuff, and like one time, I won't go into the whole story. My parents pranked my brother and I and some friends of ours with we were playing with the Ouija board, and I was always really interested in it, and they pulled a prank where they like took the broom handle and hit the ceiling and flickered the lights and and my brother's freaking out, my friend's freaking out, and I'm sitting there going, this is so cool, this is so cool. And then I hear them laughing and I'm like, I'm so pissed off.
Oh yeah, I know. It's like you're over here like, I just opened a portal to somewhere. No, you didn't, kid. Sorry. It's like finding out Santa isn't real.
For me, it was worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just the old guy who was like, I'd seen the Japanese Ringu, and when I watched the American film, I was watching it arms crossed, going, "They're screwing this up. They're screwing this up." The whole time. So I'm glad though.
You don't like wrestling. Oh my god.
Oh, don't.
I'm just saying, if you liked wrestling, you'd be a perfect wrestling fan because you hate everything. Like
I
me.
don't hate everything. I have a lot of love for a
picky.
lot. I have standards. Is that the issue here?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm
I
on
know.
your side, Lauren. Like I'm with you. I generally just kind of hate everything, but also like I think I just have standards.
You know what the problem is? I've been a fan of the genre for so long, and I wanted to do something in this genre for so long, right? That you consume a lot. And I think there's a point where you just kind of like overload yourself and you start getting like, yeah, that was okay, but they did it so much better 3 times ago in these 5 movies. And for a lot of people that seems horrible. It's like they're just dumb horror movies, deal with it, or they're just the horror novels.
Yeah.
But to me, it's more than that. I mean, this is as close as I come to religion. So it's just rock and roll and horror movies. That's what I grew up on. And a little bit later than that, obviously the fiction. But so let's start with your art. I'm imagining little Kailey at an Etch-a-Sketch.
Oh, I did have one of those. Yeah.
It's like I read your diary.
No, you'd be a lot more disturbed right now if you'd done that.
Okay. You wouldn't have reached out. So how did it begin?
The drawing. Oh my gosh. I mean, as soon as I could hold a pencil, I don't know. There's no clear memory of that. I always remember drawing and being enthralled by artwork, and my artwork often just, not always, but often erring towards the darker side. And again, Tim Burton was such a huge influence for me that even very, very early on, my work clearly reflected that. And the older I got, and I went to art school and everything, so, like, the more I would experiment, and pen illustration in particular was something that I loved very early on. Like, I don't know, I must have been 10 or 11 years old maybe when I was just really getting into pen, and then it just deepened over time. Um, but yeah, I hopefully that answers your question.
Do you remember a first illustration that you looked at and you thought, wow, that's actually really good? Not just I like it because I made it, but that's actually really good. Do you remember the first thing you drew that you had that reaction to?
Um, you know, I I don't, and I gotta admit, is part of that is for a long period when I was about in middle school, I drew nothing but anime. So
Oh my gosh, a girl after my own heart.
it's kinda tainted by that, but, I really wish I could give you a clear answer on that, and I just don't really have one. I was always very self-critical too, so that's
Mhm.
partly why I just
Well, that's why you're succeeding. No, seriously. If
Yep.
again, it's about having standards. It's just, if you can't say, "Hey, sometimes what I do sucks,"
Yeah.
then you're not critically looking because none of us are great all the time.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, at my day job, they'd say I'm not great any of the time. So
Yeah.
it's what it is.
So make me feel old again and confuse Lauren because he has no idea about anime. So
That's
sorry,
not true.
Lauren.
It's not that I have no idea about anime. I just okay, listen. I grew up before anime was like an American thing. Okay, dead
I'm not
silence.
gonna say that.
Dead
I feel
silence.
I
Killed the
know my
show.
husband's in the chat being like, well, actually. So
Oh,
anyway,
listen, Starblaze just does not count. Okay, just stop. Husband in chat.
so like, and I know that I saw some Full Metal Alchemist, what was it, Brotherhood, right?
Oh my god, yeah.
On your Instagram.
Yes,
What other
Armstrong.
anime
Yeah.
what other anime are you drawing growing up? Because I
Oh
drew
god.
like Sailor Moon. I also I tried to draw Fushigi Yugi, couldn't do it. And then
Mhm.
I tried to draw Utena characters. Utena I was good at, so that was about it.
Yeah, oh god, okay, well, the big 3, I'd say, were Inuyasha, Naruto,
Oh,
and, Fullmetal Alchemist. Those were the big 3, but I also grew up with Miyazaki movies, so I was absolutely a huge fan of those from the get-go, and I still am. Like, anime is less of a thing now for me. I still appreciate good anime here and there for sure, but, Miyazaki still, I can't wait for this upcoming movie. Like, I really do
what's
love
the
it.
next one? Because I haven't seen a Miyazaki movie in
I think it's called The
years.
Boy and the Heron or something like that.
Hmm. Okay.
Hopefully I didn't butcher that. I think it's that. I don't know. I've just seen little previews of it here and there, but anyway, yeah.
What's like your favorite Miyazaki movie? For me, it was like the only thing that I can remember is like Spirited Away. I've seen Princess Mononoke, but or Mononoke. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing that if I am.
Honestly,
But
I don't know the right way to pronounce it, but those 2 actually. Those
oh,
2.
fucking
Yeah.
A. Yeah. They used to
Spirited
play
Away was
Spirited
awesome.
Away. Yeah, they used to play that on Cartoon Network pretty regularly when I was a
Mhm.
teenager. That and like Gundam Wing, I watched the hell out of that show. That was, it wasn't for me that much, but I enjoyed it anyway.
Well, and the thing about those 2 films is they were probably some of Miyazaki's darkest from what I recall, and I think that was why they appealed to me. Spirited Away, was pretty dark as far
Mhm.
as, like, touching on the whole spirit realm thing, and then Princess Mononoke was, like, maybe his only PG-13 film, I think, or I can't remember the rating, but it was a little more violent, and that's not why I liked it, but I appreciated the darker side of both of these films from a very young age, and I really think that is a big reason why I like these movies so much.
Did that lead you to going into or wanting to do well, you said you studied in England for computer animation though, right?
Mhm, yeah.
Did that have like growing up with anime have any like effect on that?
Maybe subconsciously, it wasn't, it certainly wasn't a conscious decision because by the time I was applying for school for animation, school, I was not as big into anime, and I wanted to learn 2D animation, but I knew that the big thing to learn was 3D, um, and I unfortunately didn't really get to learn any 2D, it was just 3D, but even then, like, I started to learn more about, like, what I really wanted to do in that field, which was character designing. And so learning about cartooning and that kind of stuff and designing for different cartoons really appealed to me. And like I was mentioning earlier, it didn't really work out that way. And now I'm doing like graphic design, but there is a very large part of me that still goes back and thinks about that and goes, damn, I think in many ways that would have been the right path for me, but it also just, it didn't work out for a number of other reasons. But sorry, brief tangent on that.
No. Yeah, it happens. I mean, like character design is, really is like kind of like really foundational, of course. And I loved going through old like anime art books. Growing up, it's like I'm broke as hell, so I'm not buying those art books, but I'm gonna look at them and getting to see all the different character designs as a kind of, from where they start and then where they eventually end up later on when I was watching the anime. That was always really enjoyable.
I do that with video game artwork. There's certain video games where the artwork is just absolutely stunning, and I don't have any of the books, the art books, but I would love to have them just to look at them, just because some of it's just absolutely mind blowing. The character design and the stylistic, I don't know, it's just beautiful.
Oh yeah.
So let's take a look at a little bit of your artwork and tell me about the artwork itself. However whatever that means to you, like where the inspiration came from it, which is the steak question, I guess, or like what were the challenges? Were you testing yourself? I know when we get to a few of them in particular, because of the size of the pieces, that had to be a challenge. But let's start with A Hole in the Past.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, that is probably the oldest one that I sent you, because I don't know what the date was on that, 2016, I think. Another thing that I've been fascinated by for the longest time, and I couldn't tell you exactly when it started, is the Victorian era, and just all things to do with the Victorian era. It still fascinates me. I've got a bunch of antiques around my room that are from the Victorian era. And particularly the way they handled death and mourning and loss. And that piece was in part kind of a culmination of that. And a lot of the time what happens with my drawings is I am first inspired by music, and I develop maybe a vague image in my head. And as I start to draw it, more of the image becomes clear as I keep going. And so I just keep adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. And that's what happened with this piece, as again with most of my pieces. And I was just really feeling into the Victorian era, and I would stop and do some research about like certain customs or certain we'll stick with customs for the Victorian era, and I don't know, funeral rites or spiritualistic or spiritual beliefs, so that was just kind of a culmination of all of that.
So when I look at this piece, and I just want to put it up on screen just for one last second, it feels very much, again, that wood carving, that sense of shading as depth. It's not 3D by any means, but it has a sense of depth, and that gives it a sense of sorrow that a lot of wood carvings have. It's not that, but it reflects that. And it's something that's kind of going to be a reoccurring theme, I think, throughout the pieces that you sent me, especially the next piece we're going to look at, which is Inner Beauty, which is...
Yeah, that was... I'm trying to think. I mean... Okay, so yeah, actually, I can kind of explain this one. So my great-grandfather was an artist. I mean, art runs in my family big time, but I never met him, but he had this, he did a lot of pen and ink like I do. And my grandparents have one of his pieces in their home of a woman looking through a vanity. And I always loved it. I would always look at this piece since I was a kid and think, oh, that's just a beautiful piece. And I still go to their home and I see this piece and I love it. And even though it doesn't necessarily look anything like it, it still inspired me in that way to make this more macabre version of it. Again, it's very different, but just the whole concept of the vanity and the woman just kind of not really being aware of anything else around her, just focusing in on the mirror, is where that sort of came from. And of course, my macabre brain had to add that twist to it.
It's funny because you mentioned Ring or Ringu, and of course in the original film, an image of the mother combing her hair, looking into a wall-mounted vanity is kind of reflected there.
Right.
So it's kind of a cool, I don't know, almost meditative, shared art like touchstone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
No, it probably doesn't. I expressed that really poorly. But it's been a long day. What can you say? That is actually my favorite of the pieces that you sent. It reminds me of a lot of things, but it also has. I think art is best when a simple idea is made profound by the work, right? So it's a snapshot of an idea, and that's beautiful. You didn't make it overly complex. In fact, you kind of almost made it a storybook image by adding the roses on the periphery and whatever to make it intentionally like an art piece, almost like a tattoo in a way, right? And I love that. One thing I hate about a lot of modern art, and go ahead, Sam. I hate everything. Is that everything?
You said it, not me.
Well, everyone feels like they need to make everything way more complex than it needs to be. And instead of seeming like a snapshot of an idea filtered through the artistic expression, it becomes, oh, I'm trying to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, look how impressive this is, rather than mean something or have some resonance. And your work, especially again when we get to the post-it notes.
Oh, I love those. Those are great. Those are so fun.
But it's fascinating as a creator. I can't do what you do. I mean, I can't draw. If you've ever received a package from me, you've seen what my drawn cats look like, and it's not this.
Oh, I have one. Can I get it?
Yes.
Sam, when have I ever been able to stop you from doing anything?
Oh, never. Oh.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God! Wait, no, that's good though.
Look how cute that is.
That's good.
I can't do what you do. Well, let's just stick with that. But again, I think
like the next package will have like a really detailed cat. It's just all
there's going to be no next package.
You can cut off.
But I think we lose the ability to look at what an artist is like mapping from their psyche when they try and make things too complex. And the reason like a Monet or a Van Gogh or a Goya works is because, especially in Goya's case, because that was just pure mental illness put on the canvas. But that's the beauty of art, right? Like the idea of art to me has always been an attempt to get what's in my head directly to your head.
Yeah.
Whether you're using words or music or film.
Yeah.
And it has to go beyond just what it is. Like a film can tell a story, but can it tell you something about its creator? Well, hopefully. Otherwise, what's the purpose? What's the fucking point? Yeah. And I think your work really does speak to who you are as an artist, because again, you don't overcomplicate it. So please don't lose track of that, because you're doing an awesome job right now with it.
Thank you. That was one of my, that was always one of my favorite things, is sometimes I don't know why I'm drawing something. It just comes to me and I draw it, and then it means different things to different people, and I welcome that. I love seeing that. I love hearing what a piece means to each person, and they may buy it for that reason or just want to talk to me about it for that reason, and I welcome that. I think that's great.
Isn't that the most amazing thing? Is that like when I'm going to use film as an example because it's the common language of narrative in our society, but when a film tries to be for everyone, you can't, like, there is no interpretation. Yeah. So in other words, you never hear like a deep interpretation about what Return of the Jedi is about, right? Because it's not. It's not. But like David Lynch, who has obviously a very personal vision in a film like The Elephant Man, right? People have many, many variations on what they think it means and what it means to them. And it's interesting that when it comes from a personal place, it also is viewed from a personal space. But when it's created for the masses, everyone kind of views it pretty much the same, and it's the kind of same experience, which can be powerful and make a lot of money. But again, there's no arterial insight there.
Yeah. I totally agree.
I like the one where the gal's wrapped up in the branches and they're like, bleh! And really
Thank you.
Just technically it's spectacular, but it's also just lovely to look at.
Well, I've never heard it so eloquently put, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's why Sam's here.
Yeah. With the also with the Post-it notes, what I was like really into was, I don't know a lot about art, so bear with me, but I was like, oh man, she just used the whole space of that Post-it note. It's just like, I've heard that somewhere, like using space correctly is a thing. So
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Next up, let's take a look at Night of the Werewolf, which is like a provocatively like old school horror title.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, I put that together for Halloween of 2020. I was ironically at the beach at the time when I made this, but it was October. Even for part of it, I was sitting outside looking at a view of the ocean as I'm putting this thing together, but I'm listening to my music, which again is such an inspiration for me. I'm a bit of a metalhead, so I was listening to a lot of that kind of stuff as I was putting it together, particularly Powerwolf, which is one of my favorite bands ever. But anyway, so I would just zone in on like the music and the image and kind of forget about where I am, which sounds weird when you're at the beach because you want to really focus on where you are. But anyway, I just really wanted to put something together for Halloween. I thought, ooh, classic horror, werewolf, that sounds fun. And that's pretty much all there is to that one. Like, there's no deep story there.
I think there's going to be
You're speaking Lauren's language with metal.
I grew up with punk rock though, so I mean, I'm all over the place. I love alternative. I love classical.
I
love all kinds of music.
Yeah, I always say the only thing I can't talk is reggae because I have never found a reggae band I like. But I can talk old school hip hop. So I don't know.
I can't do country.
I can do old country.
I can't do it.
I can do old country. I can't do modern country. Modern country is just bad. Like
it's just pop music.
It's just like it all sounds like Bon Jovi, like went country. That's what modern.
I like Bon Jovi. I like Bon Jovi.
We're just gonna pretend she didn't say that.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Look, I'll win her over.
I'll win her the live broadcast.
I'll win her back over. But currently, I just can't get enough of the new Veil of Maya CD. So. See what I did there. So the next piece I want to show is actually one I think that you have almost made it's reflected in your card. It is it's kind of almost a signature piece for you at this point. Yeah. I think that's the lamplighter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I have done 3 different versions of that. The first one was Post-it note. I didn't send you the original Post-it notes because there are 6 of them and I didn't want to overwhelm you with a bunch of drawings. But I can't remember when I did it, but a couple of years ago, I was inspired by an artist named John Ken Mortensen, who also is sometimes known as Don Ken for whatever reason. But he does a lot of pen illustrations that are kind of like creepy gothic monsters on Post-it notes, and they're gorgeous. And I was absolutely inspired. And so I decided to start drawing on my own Post-it note as I was at work. This is when I was living in England, and I had a very slow day, and I just started to draw that guy on a Post-it note, and then I inked him in, and I thought, oh, you know what? Like, the lamplighter, like that was a job in the Victorian era. I wonder if I could just start drawing a bunch of little characters that had weird jobs in the Victorian era. So I started a series called The Victorian Odd Jobs, and he was one of them. And he was extremely popular and remained so for a very long time, and kind of accidentally became my signature piece. And well, I guess that's how it usually happens, is you don't necessarily know you're making your signature piece. It just happens. And I really adopted that and, set up my logo with the lamp, and I recreated it because I had a show. Well, it wasn't my show. It was a collective show of amazing artists, including, once again, Charles Adams and Edward Gorey. So this is the second time where my artwork has been in the same space as these two incredible artists, which is a mind-blowing honor. So the first time it happened was at the Rye Arts Center in Rye, New York, and I just got to, thank them and the Dark Sire Literary Magazine, who are the reason that I got into Rye, and then Rye is the reason that I got into the Adams Fest. So it was just a great chain of events. But I have to give thanks to all of them for all of this. But anyway, they wanted me to recreate the lamplighter in a larger scale because the Post-it note had sold, and it's a 3x3 inch Post-it note. It's tiny.
Wait, I want to stop you right there. How many people are ever going to get to say the words, and then I sold a Post-it note? If you have those days where you're questioning yourself, just remember that.
Well, that's a good point. Well, I recreated it, and then that one sold. And then I was commissioned to create I think it was a 36 by 36 inch illustration of the lamplighter. So that thing was massive. Biggest pen illustration I've ever done. And I was commissioned to do two of that size. One was the lamplighter, and the other was something else that, again, I didn't send it to you, so you don't have it, but it was the Undead Ludist. And again, originally started as a Post-it note. And then I'm making these 36 by 36 inch pen illustrations. I'm like, what the hell? It was fun, though. I'm absolutely flattered that I was commissioned to create the lamplighter 3 times at 3 different sizes, and they have all been sold. Again, still just anyway, but that's why I have the logo that I do, is because he's like my champion piece, I guess. I don't know.
What's the wear and tear like? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lauren.
I'm just making a dumb joke, but she says in her late 20s that I love doing the lamplighter. I'll do that. Little does she realize that she's going to be Alice Cooper in her 80s, being like, here's school's out again.
Here's your goddamn lamplighter.
Maybe I should max out at like 5, like 5 of each illustration, then I'm done. I'm not gonna make these anymore.
Well, listen, if it's making you money, I'm saying like until you get really tired of it.
That's true. That's true. I you know what? I can't say that I stop after 5. If somebody keeps asking me to recreate it, I will keep recreating it.
I don't stop after 5 either, but I don't think we're talking about the same thing.
Well done.
Oh yeah, that was low hanging fruit, but like how what's the wear and tear like on your hand and your wrist having to do? I mean, not just the regular pieces, but those huge, the 36 by 36 pieces.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was a little exhausting. Again, crazy cool. And I am really flattered and honored that I was commissioned to do that. But, so I got this gigantic piece of paper and I hung it up on this wall over here, and I projected it, the original illustration onto the wall, which is my mom's idea, so courtesy of my mom, and sketched it out, and then I turned it off and went in with ink, and oh my God, I don't even know how many pens I went through. I had to get the extra large ones. I normally work with super fine tip, tiny little pens, and yeah, my wrist, my hand, my arm, I'd get tired and I would have to take breaks. I would have to stop. It was a workout. God. I would do it again in a heartbeat, though. I absolutely would.
That's awesome. I also really enjoyed, like, I don't think, Lauren, you probably don't have that one, Throne.
I don't.
The one where it's because that one really caught my eye too. And I noticed like a lot of your the characters that you draw, like everybody's wearing like these really nice suits sometimes, obviously the lamplighter, and I'm like, okay, I'm guessing it's the Victorian influence.
Yeah.
And, but this one kind of, it's a suit wearing gentleman with kind of a swirled face and then wings. And then sitting on a pile of, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like a Brian Yuzna, Akira nightmare. And then he's got these little, So where did that one come from?
I don't know.
What is that, bad Chinese food?
I do. Oh God, I just really wanted to. and I know I could do more, but I wanted to create one of the most fucked up pieces I could possibly think of. And again, I know I could do better. I know I can make it even more fucked up than that, but that was part of my ambition.
Like, there is a centipede coming out of this dude's head, like out of his mouth.
Yeah.
But then it's sort of like everything kind of like ends up going somewhere, and wherever something ends, something else starts.
Yeah. Yeah. That one was fun. And it's kind of annoying because like I keep thinking about it and I keep going, I want to go back and add to it. I want to do more with it. And I don't actually normally do that with my art because I do have to say, I mean, I'm usually pretty good about being like, this is done. I'm done. And a lot of artists struggle with that. For whatever reason, I am pretty good at just being like, okay, I'm done. And I put it away. But that one, I keep thinking like, I want to do something with the background or just something insane. I just want to fuck it up even more.
It's just like, just all this stuff happening in the background is just like this never ending nightmare.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I got to say, part of my inspiration, if you've ever heard of the band Ghost, it's funny. I love their music. I saw them in concert with my boyfriend and they were just, oh my God, they were incredible. And Amon Amarth, also incredible. But their album art got my attention immediately, particularly for one album, which is called, I think, hopefully it's pronounced Perkel. And it's inspired by the Black Plague, which we will, I suppose, get to with my next pen illustrations. And it just this guy was like seated on like this throne of all these weird things. And while my illustration is very different from it, it still kind of got the wheels turning. And I was listening to Ghost and I was listening to other metal bands that I really like. And so that's kind of where that came from. But otherwise, like, yes, my own fucked up head just kind of going, all right.
Oh, that's kind of rad, though.
Kind of one of the big responsibilities of all great art is to inspire more great art, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but you can't set out to do it. That's the other brilliant thing. It has to happen organically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's funny. Years ago, I was in an anthology based on Bruce Springsteen's songs, and in the forward to that, the editor Harrison Howe has this line about sometimes a turn of a lyric will inspire a painter, and that painter's art will inspire. And he went down this list, and it's kind of this whole concept that yes, you may end up with a greeting card, but along the way, it'll affect more people than you ever knew, no matter where you are in that chain. So you might create a middle piece of inspiration, but you're essential because it'll eventually get somewhere. That's way bigger than any of us individually as artists will get.
Yeah,
and I think that's very true.
I do too. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Ready to do some post-it notes? So first, before we start, just to clarify, these are the regular 4x4 post-its, or
I think they're 3x3.
3x3.
They're just regular yellow post-it notes. Yeah.
And before we show one, so the inspiration for using these was just that's what was available for that first one, or
no, it was the artist who had done it before. He had done the pen illustrations of weird dark creatures and stuff. Don Ken or John Ken Mortensen. And I originally started with the Victorian odd jobs, and again, this was years ago. And then more recently, I decided to try another series, which was the Plague series, and I would like to do another series. I just don't know what. So if you have any ideas for a new series, I welcome ideas.
Put them in the comments below. I hate saying shit like that because everyone.
Or drop them in the chat. Maybe we'll read them. We'll see.
So this is the ship.
Yeah. So the idea being that the rats, which were carrying the fleas, which were carrying the plague, were spread about by travel ships. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about that one.
So working on that small of a medium, how much thought do you have to put in advance to putting the tip of the pen down? Because I mean, you with a larger canvas, you can kind of like cheat a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Compositionally, you can't cheat at all with something that small, can you?
Yeah, well, it's funny, like, I mentioned working on a 36 by 36 inch piece of paper, and, I found that to be more challenging, a lot more challenging than working on Post-it notes. Working small, fine details, I've always enjoyed doing it, and yeah, it's a bit of a headache and tedious sometimes, but I found it far easier than working on a huge medium with pen in particular. But, yeah, it's me, like, very, like, in on it and just, like, finding the tiniest tip thing that I can possibly find, sketching it out in pencil first so I don't minimize screw ups, but, sometimes they happen, and luckily, I usually am the only one who sees them. I'm like, "I really messed that up right there," but nobody else is saying anything, so it's probably okay.
You're like,
Gonna drop box over this area. No.
It's a good deal that there's 220 Post-it notes in this pack. So, and besides, don't worry, I won't let your secret slip out.
Draw 220 lamplighters.
Yeah, exactly.
If you pay me, I'll do it.
said like a true capitalist.
I'm an artist.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It might not start out that way. You might have high ideals, and then like the second week into ramen, you're like, no, I'm cool selling stuff. Plasma art, whatever.
Yeah.
So let's do the rats.
Yeah. Again, rats, plague. Each illustration features a skeleton carrying, I think, usually they're with, I don't know, maybe they're not all carrying a scythe, but essentially the idea of death. And they each have a lantern now to kind of have that focal point, that source of light that kind of spirals out, which I was just playing with using that as a connecting theme apart from the skeleton.
Does the skeleton have a name?
It doesn't, but if you have one in mind, I welcome it.
Chad.
It doesn't feel right.
He's too skinny to be a Chad.
He's not bro enough to be a Chad.
I know, right?
You have to name him something that's a little bit painful, but also is kind of cool because it's painful. So it's like femur.
Lorne.
No.
Perfect.
No. Femur bimaro. Something like that.
Femur bimaro. That hurts.
I told you it would hurt, but that's what you need.
Oh,
little bit of cringe pain is always better for the soul.
Mm.
And the pit is the last piece I have to show. Let's see.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I like that one. That one's so cool.
I
love how it looks like they're melting right in the ground.
And in particular, this reminds me of wood cuttings and those Vlad wood cuttings in particular. Just the kind of, I don't mean this in the wrong way. It's broad.
No, it's funny you say that, because I was looking at wood cuttings from that period to help inspire some of the style. And I meant to say earlier that I have been fascinated by wood cuttings as stylistically, and I think maybe they've bled into how I illustrate almost subconsciously. With those, it was a little more purposeful, but yeah, it totally makes sense for you to say that.
Griffin wants you to name the skeleton Christopher.
I think he's telling Chris to name the skeleton. I can't tell. There's a comma.
I'm going to read it my way. I think that.
Okay. I was saying.
Why Christopher?
I like how that comment went absolutely nowhere. Because
I just want to know the reason. I'm not disputing. I just want to know.
So there's the suggestion for a lamplighter flip book.
Oh,
my
wrist hurts reading that.
It would take a lot. Yeah, but if it's all on Post-it notes, they're small enough. It's but
it's doable.
If we're talking 36 by 36, no, that's too much.
How would you flip that?
I don't know. I'm a big fan. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, thank you.
Spike G says, check out her art on Instagram. I'm very impressed. Well done. Well, yes, that's why she's here. I didn't walk into a gallery and went, oh, this is an amateur who sucks. What's he doing with these other greats?
No, that's what I tell myself sometimes.
And of course, the most true comment of the evening, Lauren knows nothing.
Yes, that's fair.
Although this one may qualify too.
Tony, hi Tony. That's my insane friend.
Good. Someone that's not ours.
Okay,
No.
a clarification has come from Griff.
Okay, well, why are we naming it Christopher Columbus then?
I think it's the whole
why would
idea
I-
of like
Oh,
brought
I get
disease
it.
over and whatever. I think he's being like
No, I get it.
Yeah.
No, I get it. If I understand correctly, I appreciate it. in a very
listen,
dark
I think
way.
I never understood that. Just as a side comment, like, sure, Europeans came over and spread diseases and germs, but you got to think like the natives here were spreading their germs back, right? It couldn't have been a one-way street, right?
Well, that wasn't the sole problem now, was
I
it?
know, I agree, but I'm saying if we're just talking like bio warfare, it kind of went both ways.
Yeah, and I don't know about the other side, but I know from what I understand, sometimes it was done on purpose.
Sure,
So
sure.
it's
Because
funny.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I use my
people are
husband's shirt to
amazing.
sneeze into. It's fine.
Yeah, well, because
It
people are
absolutely
amazing and
goes both
history is full
ways.
of the happiest moments.
Man, Griffin's suggestion was like way too smart for me. I was like, what? Like the director?
Tony. Hi, Tony.
Not awkward at all.
That's actually one of my good friends from England,
From
where we
England.
met. Yes.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
We have some good friends from England too on this show. That they're all asleep because it's way late and they don't care about us nearly as much as Tony cares about you. So
He doesn't live in England right now, so it doesn't count.
so maybe he doesn't. I could be entirely wrong.
Maybe he cares less.
Probably. Do better, Tony.
Oh,
Wow.
the public call out.
He knows.
Oh, yeah. Hey, so I wanted to ask because I saw that you made mead on your Instagram, and like that's been like one of those things my husband's been talking about forever. Because, like, I don't know if you go to Ren Fair, but I have to ask because if you make mead, do it. Okay. Do you have any good Ren Fair stories?
Oh God. I don't really. I mean, I'll probably like get off of here and then talk to my parents. Like, oh my God, we had this great Ren Fair story. How did you forget this? And I'll be like, oh, damn it. But no, I mean, the last time I went to the Ren Fair in Maryland, which is one we usually went to, it was just overcrowded and disgusting and really sad because normally it was great. I always had a great time. It was just so overcrowded. And then I went to one in Pennsylvania also this year, and it was pouring rain the entire time.
That's all for the best.
It was a great Ren Fest, but it was just pouring.
It's all for the best if you're in Pennsylvania if it's raining.
Yeah. But the mead, I make mead sometimes, but I actually also work for a meadery. So there's that too.
Oh, that's cool too.
Yeah, Thistle Rock Mead Company. Yeah, up and coming.
I'm like, now I'm really the fish out of water because I'm the only non-beverage working person here.
What's a non-beverage working person?
You guys both work for beverage companies.
Oh, I forgot I did. Thanks for reminding me.
Not a problem. I mean, I sell beverages.
Then that also counts. Welcome to the fold.
And I need to take up bad habits like drinking. So drinking like really dangerous drugs. I need to take up a lot of bad habits that I don't currently.
Oh yeah, you gotta catch up, man.
I do.
I'll
be watching your wrestling shows any day now by this rate.
Oh my God, I know it's only a matter of time. It's gonna happen. I just don't know when. But like Ren Fair wise, okay, so I don't know. I've only been to Ren Fair maybe twice, and this is not something that like I'm personally invested in. I don't I'm kind of like, oh, I'm just here every now and then. Like I don't dress up for it or anything because I'm just kind of like outside my wheelhouse. But the one the one that I've been to in Texas, for some reason, it has so many Harley Quinns wandering around that we had to start a drinking game.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So you take it. I don't know if that's like a regional thing. If it's just like just down in Texas we have Harley Quinns at Ren Fair.
I didn't see one at the one in Maryland or the one in Pennsylvania. That's weird. I mean, the connection is like very, very, very hanging on by a thread there,
It's
but like
tenuous at best.
seems really
Mhm.
strange. Yeah. I mean, I've seen some weird things at Ren fairs, but like, yeah, no. Didn't see that this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen some very interesting medieval interpretations on costumes. Like there was one couple that was the Tick and Arthur. I don't know if you ever saw that show, that cartoon with the big blue guy and then like the white little moth guy Arthur, his sidekick. But there was a couple there who dressed up like that, and I'm just thinking like, why can't we have more medieval like animal costumes? I tried to say, what about Ren Fair dinosaurs? Yes? Anybody?
Sure.
I don't.
Trying to get everybody on board. I don't know. I'm trying to get everybody on board with this. I was talking to my husband about it. He's like, no, they weren't alive.
How would the dinosaurs wear corsets? Because that's the whole Ren Fair thing, isn't it?
Is that like that joke about how would a dog wear pants or something, or a chicken wear pants?
Pretty much. It makes just as much sense as dinosaurs at Ren Fairs, so.
I think you can make it work. I mean, like when McDonald's used to have those dinosaur like those little dinosaur toys that were like Transformers kind of, but they were also the little McDonald's snack foods. I'm serious. I'm not making it. I'm sort of
No, I believe you. No, there's like pirate themed stuff at Ren fairs, right? And it's like pirates were, after then. So I mean, there were pirates, but like like Pirates of the Caribbean pirates, that's not the Renaissance period. That's very much after the Renaissance, and yet it's still very much a huge thing at Ren fairs. You see all kinds of stuff at Ren fairs. It's just like, that doesn't quite work, but whatever. I mean, I've got a whole pirate costume now because at the aforementioned meadery, we had a pirates ball, and I was like, oh, this is finally my chance to put together the pirate costume I've always wanted. And part of my rationale in spending the money I did on this costume was, I'm going to wear it at Ren fairs. No, it doesn't make sense, but it's fine. I'm going to make it work.
Kailey, can I ask you to do me a big favor?
Yeah.
Could you read a comment aloud and read it aloud before you read it?
Read it aloud before I read it.
Yep, real time.
Don't think, just
Ready?
read it.
Yeah, exactly. Ready?
Oh God, okay. I can help you with your drug dream, Lauren, though you long way from my Irish still in DMT shed. If you ever try one drug, I recommend DMT, wildest gear I ever tried, like shrooms time 100 in a lungful. You will see some.
Yeah, you get to meet the
Nailed
machine
it.
elf.
Holiday,
I do that.
I think you missed my sarcasm, but thank you for the offer. I do appreciate it. I just no one needs me to be intoxicated in any form. Believe me.
Yeah, no.
It's a bad idea. Jonathan would like to take you to task for your logic, Sam. Just saying.
Look, I'm just saying, I feel like there's room at Ren Fair for dinosaurs.
What kind of dinosaurs?
Honestly, I was thinking more along the lines of, like a Stegosaurus and Ankylosaurus, just kind of, not the really like big flashy dinosaurs like the T-Rex, and not the really long ones like the Brachiosaurus, like the ones that would get in the way. Just kind of the ones that are like more compact and people wouldn't mind them being around in Ren Fair.
Just for whatever reason. Just because.
I'm thinking
that's the size that I'm thinking.
This is
Well,
like
if there's Harley
Godzilla Ren Fail.
Ren fail. That
Ren Fail. Didn't mean it, but now it exists.
No, that should be a thing. Yeah.
Oh man.
That could be a website, Ren Fail, and it'd just be bad Ren Fair.
Bad costumes at Ren fairs. Yeah.
That should exist. People of Walmart for Ren fairs. I think we just created something. We have a partnership that we all own.
Oh my God, please. I want in on this.
So, Kailey, what are you working on now with your art? And what do you hope to do? I mean, I think it's a pretty huge accomplishment that this fall you got to, for the second time, share your work with exactly the right precedents in Edward Gorey and in Charles Adams. But this is just the beginning. You're young, you're hungry, you're talented. What's next?
I don't know for sure right now. I hope there's something else Sorry, my Alexa just went off, and I don't know why it just went off.
Alexa, play Minor Threat.
I don't know why she... Sorry. I had to unplug her. She would shut up. I don't know what that... she's never done that. That's really weird. Anyway.
She was telling you what was coming next. Had you listened, you would have learned the future.
Oh my god, that's so strange. So I really hope that there is an opportunity to work with Adams Fest again in the future. I've loved working with them, and I know there's been like some, at least in the past, I don't know about now, but there was some discussion of maybe working together again, and I'm not going to hold that to them, but I hopefully that happens. It's the only thing I can really think of right now. But I keep working on my pen illustrations, and I don't know, I keep trying to get them out there because I really love it. It's a lot of fun. Anytime I have this incredible opportunity to show my artwork someplace as amazing as Westfield or Rye, like
as amazing as New Jersey. I hear it.
Westfield was so cool. Come on, I mean, it's the birthplace of Charles Adams. Like,
Jersey has a lot to be proud of. That was not entirely cynical.
Okay. Maybe I misread that then.
No, it was meant to go both ways in this case.
Okay, all right. But yeah, so I'd love to keep doing it. It's so much fun.
Any other aspirations as far as working for publishers or anything like that? Is any projects for online, or is that all still to be determined for the future?
As far as my artwork is concerned, yeah. I'm a graphic designer too, and that's kind of mostly where I'm making my money right now. And I really like it. Illustration is definitely my true love, but I do really enjoy graphic design, and I want to keep doing that. If I can ever make it as an illustrator full time, then awesome. But I also love to write, and I at one point was trying to publish a novel that I wrote. So like, I don't know if that's in the cards for me in the future or not, but I don't know. I feel like my interests are very scattered, but illustration is definitely spearheading all of it.
And if people want to see more, where do they go?
I have an Instagram, which is Kailey Reid Illustration, and Facebook, which is also Kailey Reid Illustration. And I have a website. I have two websites. One is for graphic design, and one is for illustration. Kailey Reid Illustration and Kailey Reid Design. But there should be a link in the description.
and maybe it'll even be right now. Because it may initially not have been.
It's all good. It's all good.
Well,
it is now.
When I make assumptions, sometimes they don't work out for me. So if someone wants to go to the next step, though, say they want to own a piece, how do they go about that?
I really wish I could say I have an online shop right now, and I don't, and I have failed on that miserably. But that being said, I'm very, very open to people reaching out to me and commissioning me, or if they just want prints, I'm more than happy to discuss that. They can message me on Instagram, on Facebook, or if they go to my website, they can send me an email, which is just kaileyreid@gmail.com. But yeah, I'm always happy to discuss commissions, or if they're interested in a current original illustration or a print. Yeah. But hopefully one day I will actually get an online shop going.
Sam, do you have any final questions or concerns, or do you want to plead your case for the Ren Fair one more time?
I mean, I don't know. I might have to reconsider the Ren Fair thing, because I feel like velociraptors could also fit in at Ren Fair. Because people are always doing a lot of role playing there, and the velociraptor would fit in just fine.
Well, you're talking like real velociraptors, like the size of turkeys, or like Jurassic Park?
No, like people dressed up as medieval velociraptors. It's perfect for that.
So it's like a velociraptor with a top hat.
I don't know if it's going to be a top hat.
People do a lot of steampunk at Ren fairs, which also doesn't make sense. But
Oh, steampunk velociraptor. That's our new
Back more.
band name, Lauren.
This is why Jack the Ripper was never identified. There's the steampunk velociraptor running around the south end, the east end. Yeah,
You've just cracked the case. Yep.
Well, it's believable as anything else, I guess, at this point.
Oh,
All
God.
right, so I want to thank everyone out in the chat. Please, 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 please check out Kailey's work. It's amazing, and seeing it in person was even more amazing than what you're going to see online. So reach out to her. She did answer me quickly enough that I think she'll answer you. Consider supporting artists. I've said this a million times on a million shows, but it is tough when you're following what you want to do. You know, we all make concessions in life. We all have day jobs. Partially that's because there's no retirement plans with the arts, and there's no health care, right? So if you love what you see, consider picking it up. A print isn't going to set you back a whole lot, but it's going to make a big difference in her life. The same way, I'm just saying that, you know, a purchase of a book, even if you're not going to read it, isn't going to destroy your life, but it's really going to help me. So please consider supporting art wherever you find it. And if Kailey's art's not for you, and if my writing's not for you, that's cool. Find someone who is, and just do that today. Because there's good guys and bad guys in life. And the bad guys tend to get our money all the time, and the good guys tend to not. So what are we doing?
Ooh, true.
All right.
Should we close out with Holiday Styles' last comment?
Do you want to read it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
100 pounds a G, you will see the alien side. Give it 2 hours to get out your system. I'm not selling anything, by the way. Just typing like Joe Rogan on a hallucinogen. It's intense. Sucked in computer with a skeleton once wild.
We need to add a beat to that and clip it, add a beat to that, and loop it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think at that point we are done. Have a great time, guys. We will be back eventually. I know we're overdue for a just talking genre. We'll get there. I promise.
Remember when we used to have community shows?
Good night.